Hi, my name's Kate Jones, and for project number 4, I decided to do a deeper dive in how we choose to study art history and which ways are more beneficial than others. Specifically, I'm going to be speaking on the historical significance beyond slow looking and the value of aesthetics in art. And for this project, I am going to be looking at specifically medieval and pre-modern art. And when we analyze those realms of art, is it important to recognize the values that we hold in the art goes beyond just aesthetics. There's a story behind every piece of art and why it is created, and I believe that it is really important that we acknowledge those things, and I think that we kind of need to take a step back and realize how much value we put on solely just aesthetics, and we kind of need to realize that aesthetics are there for a specific reason, and that reason has a lot of significance, and we need to start placing more value on that and begin to be aware of that. The significance is created from historical context, and there are stories that are generated from it that we are unable to capture with just a glance. The context of these pieces grants us more insight than we are willing to give it as of now. And my thesis for this project is, why is it important that we shift our value from aesthetics to historical context while still being able to acknowledge both at the same time? In this essay, I'm going to be referencing the term slow looking several times. I think I already said it before. You guys were probably like, what is this girl talking about? But in an essay written by Claire Burns titled, What is Slow Looking and How Can I Get Started?, she described the art of slow looking as the art of learning through observation, and examining the work of art as a real case you look, the more you see. So it's anywhere from like a 10 to 60 minute process where it's just you and the art. It's a like completely not necessarily out of body experience, but there's nothing around you except for you and the art. You're going to silence any distractions and just look at the piece of art for whatever duration of time you think is fit. You're going to notice that, as Claire Brown said, the more you look, the more you see. You're going to notice these little details that you wouldn't have noticed if you were just in passing. And this practice can be done with anything in the world. I did it the other day. I just sat at the lake and stared at everything around me for a while. And you start to notice these funny things that you never you would think you'd seen before. Like, for example, there's a huge phoenix statue right by the lake that I somehow had never noticed before. So just things like that where slow looking can help us get a lot, but the important thing that I'm trying to get across is that it's not enough. It's a really good place to start, but that is somewhere where we have to continue to build on and keep seeing progress through that. Another thing to acknowledge in relation to slow looking is the experience of art, and that the experience varies a lot depending on the person, the location, and just the art in general. Everybody's going to have different interpretations. Everybody goes at different times. And another thing is that the artwork looks completely different in most cases than it was when it was originally created, and the way that we experience these works of art is completely different from how they were meant to be looked at originally. Like, most of these works of art weren't intended to be in these modern day museums, and that's a really important thing to acknowledge that usually doesn't get thought of. Kind of to go hand in hand with examples, in an essay written by Heather H. Pulliam titled Rethinking Slow Looking Encounters with Clonmacnoise, she talks about her experiences with Clonmacnoise, also known as the Irish Crosses, in Ireland. And her experience, it's hard when you're going to somewhere in Ireland. The crosses are outside, so, it's typically very foggy, raining, they're worn down. In her case, she was with a 3-year-old, I think, and he was, screaming and pulling at her the whole time, so she didn't have this ability to just sit there and experience the art as a typical art historian would. And there's also, that kind of goes hand in hand with the idea that art isn't necessarily accessible to everybody, to just go in a museum and sit there and slow look at it for all of these hours. So when we place the value of historical significance somewhat higher than we do aesthetics, there is definitely more accessibility for these people to look at what is considered more significant than when they wouldn't have access to what is considered more important. And in no way is this video essay meant to shame the fact that we put and hold this value on aesthetics. We hold the value in aesthetics for a reason. These items satisfy us visually, and they are really well created, but there are ways to bring the ideas together of historical significance and aesthetics through the world of virtual reality and bringing it into the space of art. As I mentioned earlier, not everybody has the ability to go in and access all these paintings and just sit there and stare at it for this prolonged period of time. So that brings in the idea that a lot more people are able to experience it. You don't have to travel to all these insane places to go see them, or you don't have to worry about dragging a 3-year-old along like Heather was. You kind of have access to all of these spaces, and with this, it creates all these awesome new ideas. Like, you're able to just pick up this whole building and bring it right to you. And yes, you can experience things online through just a picture, but you don't really get the full experience. Virtual reality also brings in the noises of the space and can even create something that we aren't able to experience at all in modern day without it. It can bring back the restoration and help you actually see what the pieces looked like at the original time, because not all works of art were able to restore without damaging it. Tian Wang actually talks about it in his essay called Virtual Reality-Based Digital Restoration Methods and Applications for Ancient Buildings. He talks about how not everything we're able to restore perfectly without damaging it. And he states, quote by quote, "The importance of preserving the cultural heritage and ancient buildings without damaging the buildings themselves is particularly important." With virtual reality, we get to experience those as they were before, and we get to experience them now, which I think is a really helpful thing that can bring back together the connection of historical significance and aesthetics in an ideal world where both are valued the same. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I think you all will notice that now this idea is put into your brains, you'll use it a lot more than you realize you do. Now, every time I run into a work of art and I've been thinking about this, I view it a completely different way, and I find myself wanting to know more. With even just the general things in life, it doesn't have to apply with just art. So I hope that you guys, or you, Professor Hayes, are able to take that away from this. Thank you.